Hello, I'm Nicole van Dam, and I'm here for Our Ventura TV. Our guest today is medical expert Dr. Kenneth Kafka, who is a certified internist. In addition to that, he practices functional medicine and integrative medicine. Welcome, Dr. Kafka.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
Can you tell us a little bit about stress and its effect on the body?
Stress has a profound effect on the body. Biologically, we have to have stress to survive. There's an inherent fight or flight response that the body has, which has perpetuated the species. Especially when there's, when there's been famine and there's a bear running after you from hundreds of years ago, or war. So stress is a very necessary, normal part of life. The challenges of life are filled with stress. What's happened in the modern world, though, is that we're more bombarded by messages from technology, by the media, on our phones, on TV, driving down the street, hearing horns honking, seeing neon signs telling you to do this, do that, eat that, commercials on television. This current political climate can cause an enormous amount of stress. So when there's chronic stress as opposed to an acute stress, which is what is more normal, when there's chronic stress, it has a profound snowballing effect on the rest of our physiology. When stress hormones are high, they ultimately lower our immunity or dysregulate our immune system. So you can be more prone to getting sick, or it can even contribute to your immune system getting a little confused and developing as a contributor to something called an autoimmune problem. All the hormones talk to each other in the body. So the major stress hormones are ACTH from the brain and cortisol, which is made from our adrenal glands. It's not just, but also chronic elevated cortisol can affect your blood sugar and contribute to the formation of diabetes. But what's very important to understand, because people intuitively or instinctively know, although they get lost in it because everyone is so stressed in modern living, especially in metropolitan areas. What people don't really fully understand is that it affects all the other hormones in the body. We tend to, in general medicine, think of there's your stress hormones. There's your thyroid hormone, where the thyroid gland is. There's your, for women, their ovaries, their estrogen, their progesterone. For men, their testes or their testosterone, things like that. And we think of this in conventional medicine as all being very compartmentalized. But the stress response, if it's prolonged, starts to affect all the other hormones. There's a remarkable interrelationship between all these different glands, which are located throughout the body, and there's a couple of principal ones in the brain, the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland. They control a lot of these other hormones, and there's so many hormones even in the brain. There are some people who think of the brain almost itself as a large gland, because there are so many little hormones running around influencing our thoughts and our feelings.
And all the glands together is known as
That's the endocrine system.
The endocrine system. And so part of your practice is focusing
It's developed over years, yeah. In 2005, I had been practicing holistic medicine, integrative medicine, nutrition, stress management, adding some other modalities from other cultures into traditional medicine. I went to my first anti-aging conference, and the keynote speaker opened the conference, and I'll never forget this because it had a profound effect on me. He said, well, normally in medicine we think that as we age, our hormones decline. But really, it's as our hormones decline that we age. And so this was my very first anti-aging lecture. And my brain did a 180. And I knew I wanted to learn about the endocrine system more, but I became very, very interested in how important the endocrine system is. So I trained there and got certified in what they had to offer. And then started to, as I was already getting to be middle-aged myself, and people's hormones change in their middle age more dramatically for women than men. And so I became very interested in working with, what's now called, hormone replacement therapy, or ways to support an endocrine system, someone's hormones and glands, so that they would function optimally longer.
What is hormone replacement therapy?
Hormone replacement therapy is when the glands stop making enough hormones so that it can really have a dramatically negative effect on the body. You can give the person hormones pharmaceutically. They can be derived from natural substances, and they're tweaked in the lab so they're biologically identical to what the body makes. And so, for example, for someone who has a thyroid problem, they've been doing that for a century, giving thyroid extract that has the right thyroid hormones in it for people who have low-functioning thyroid. For men, back in the 40s, you could inject testosterone if their testosterone levels went down. For women, starting in the 60s or so, they started to give certain forms of estrogen and something like progesterone, pharmaceutical. These were drugs, though. These were not biologically identical. And so these have been given in medicine for a long time, but then there was a movement that these things should be from the more natural oriented practitioners and scientists, that we should only be giving things that are biologically identical if possible, because of some studies that had been done that pointed a little bit to problems with some of the hormone replacements that were like hormones but not exactly hormones. So that became a part of my practice, and I had always avoided that prior to that. And my interest in, and this also involves, again, the adrenal glands and the pancreas. This organ right here sitting behind our stomach makes insulin and glucagon and all these other hormones that are also, the liver makes hormones. So there are hormones being made all around the body.
Is it a world unto itself?
It is. Well, I'm learning more and more. As I learned about each of the individual, what they're called an axis, like the thyroid axis in the body, or the gonad axis, or the pituitary, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis. It goes from this deeper structure in the brain called the hypothalamus to the pituitary, which then talks to the gland. And that hypothalamus is monitoring, okay, we need to make more, or we need to turn it down.
So if any one of them is off, more can be off.
Well, sure. What I've learned over the years is that it's not just each separate glandular system. It's not just if there's a thyroid problem, you correct the thyroid. A thyroid problem could be being caused because there's a mild imbalance that isn't easily noticeable in the production of estrogen and progesterone, or in the degree of stress and the stress hormones and how they impact the whole other cascade of hormones that get made in the other glands. So it became apparent to me after 5, 6 years, 7 years, it's been a while since I've been doing that as much as I enjoyed it, it still felt limited doing hormone replacement therapy. And then just more recently, I was able to finish my training in something called endobiogeny. And this has begun to answer a lot of questions that I have in my mind. What endobiogeny is, it's a system of the human organism that's based by these two doctors in France. It's getting close to 50 years in the making. And it's a very detailed study of the interrelationship between all the hormones. So it's not just the hormone goes to this tissue and does that. It's like this hormone talks to that hormone, which talks to that hormone. It's like it's like Grand Central Station when you start to actually see how complex it is. It's actually a bit daunting.
And does that help you fine-tune treatments for people?
Yes, and the treatment in this particular modality is well, it can be using anything. It can be using a hormone, or it can be using a pharmaceutical, but mostly it's geared towards using herbs and essential oils, and of course diet. And it isn't just the hormones. The hormones affect how your gut works and how your liver works and how the whole detoxification of your system works, and the hormones affect your stress level, and your stress level affects all the other hormones, and it's this ongoing, it's very complex. It's very complex, and it's a whole world of study that I'm just getting into.
Well, you've really whet my appetite to learn more, and it sounds like something that we couldn't cover in the remaining time. So is there a concluding thought that you can share with our viewers, and possibly a website where people could learn more about you?
Sure. I think people should trust themselves, and there's a world of modalities of healing out there, and if one practitioner isn't working for you, then try another. If one modality isn't working for you, try another. There's a great deal of validity to all the various healing systems that are available in this world today. So that's what I would conclude with.
And your website would be?
Is www.kennethkafka.com.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kafka. This is Nicole van Dam signing off for this segment of Our Ventura TV. Be well and happy until next time.